Welcome to this week's Hymn of the Week. This week we have ELW 589, All Depends on Our Possessing. So let's start talking about the tune. The tune is put, as you can see in the ELW, it mentions Johann Lerner, and he is the composer of the tune. It's in two-measure phrases. So here's our first two-measure phrase, then we start again, then another two-measure phrase. Of course, another two-measure phrase, two-measure phrase, and one more, which is sort of the same, slightly different ending here. So there's lots of similarities there, different starting note for the second half of the tune, but generally two-measure phrases. Originally, this piece was a melismatic, ornamented, written piece by Johann Lerner, which we see in here, but then it was adapted by various composers, eventually finally revised by Hiller in 1793. Now, when Johann Lerner wrote it, he put these words with it, Wunderanfang and Herrliches Ende. It was a solo piece. So Wunderanfang meaning like wonderful beginning, and Herrliches Ende meaning like an amazing end, right? So I would like to try a different thing, much in this vein of the composers that put this tune together that we see in evangelical Lutheran worship today. I'm going to try to attempt trying it in a new style with the piano. That wouldn't have existed in 1793 when Hiller, well, by then the piano existed. But originally when Johann Lerner came up with it, the piano wasn't existing. So I think that's a great way of trying to revisit this piece that has been through so many styles. So here's All Depends on Our Possessing. All depends on our possessing God's free grace and constant blessing. No earthly wealth depart. They who trust with faith So I realized that that becomes a totally different tune that way. But I think it's important when we look at the history of this hymn that it was done that way. It went through so many different styles. And so yes, of course, tomorrow I might want to sit down at the organ and play it 4 parts on the organ and enjoy the SATV parts and its harmony. But I also think revisiting in those other styles is important. So if we looked at, for example, a melismatic ornamented written style, it's really hard to think about what it could be if, of course, the text is different than the tune here. But maybe. I have no idea. But you can hear how much that changes with the text. So let's talk about the text. I didn't forget. It was written around 1673 and it was considered a German anonymous hymn. I really wanted us to hear the text first because there's such a power in this text. It's anonymous, so we don't know who wrote it, but we know that Catherine Winkworth translated it. But it was published in the Andächtige Hauskirche. Now the Andächtige Hauskirche, if we try to translate this a bit, Andachten, referring from German to English, devotions, Hauskirche, of course, church in the home. So these were for devotions, bringing the church to your house. And so devotions at home. So that's interesting when maybe looking at the text a different way. Originally it had 6 stanzas, and Catherine, of course we mentioned, did the translation. And our version in the Evangelical Lutheran Worship removes the male pronouns. So I'm going to go through the first verse again, and thank you very much for listening to Hymn of the Week.